All right, so we know F2 is there. We got F2 selected. We now jump to the bottom. We found that last cell. Now, I want to start creating the calculation. There's going to be a few steps that we're going to go through in order to automate this sum function, getting F2 to that last cell. But ultimately, if I get back into my VBA window here, we're sitting, this line right here, found that last cell in the column. It jumped all the way to the bottom, so we know where that last cell is at now. We can now do this. I can say active cell dot offset. I want to go down one row, no columns, and I want to select it. So from the active cell, which is dictated by this line right here, it found the last cell in there. From that cell, whether that's F15 or 16 or 20 or whatever it is, I want you to offset one row down, 0 columns, and select it. Then I want to say active cell dot value equals something. I want to put something inside of that cell. Well, what is it that I want to put here? I want to put the formula. I want to sum up the F2 cell down to that last cell that we found. It might look something like this. And if I quickly write on my screen here, let's bump that up. It might look something like this. We might say equal sum F2, because that's the first cell inside that column, right? We know that. Colon. What's going to go there? What's going to go in those question marks? Well, we know where the last cell is at. We selected it. We found it. Selection.end xldown.select. That found the last cell there. But it's not just good enough to find the cell. We need to get the address, the cell reference. I need to put something in there. Is it F15? Is it F16? Is it F100? Right? What is that? So my formula, with just a little bit of information that we know right now, it's going to look something like this. We're going to say equal sum F2. Again, we already know F2, colon. We know that part right there. That's what I want to put inside that one cell down, right? But there's the unknown. We need to know what this is. Remember these ampersands? Those are your concatenating characters. Those are the combining characters. So we're going to take this right here, this known bit of the formula, and we're going to combine that with the unknown, something that we don't know yet, and then we're going to combine that with the closing parentheses to generate this formula. But we need to get this right here, these question marks. We need to know, is that F2 through F15 or F100 or what is it? Well, let's go back to this line here. That's giving me an error about that. You can ignore that. So this line right here, we're sitting on that last cell. We know where that last cell is at. But we need to get the address from that cell. So if I want to grab something, store it away to later use it, what do? Create a variable. So I'm going to call this dim last cell as string. We're going to put a text value inside of it. So I called it last cell. Now I'm going to come down here, right below where we select the last cell, and I'm going to say last cell is equal to the active cell address. So take that variable that we just created. You now found the last cell. Now we're going to say the last cell is equal to the active cells, whatever cell got selected here, its address. Now I'm going to make a quick little change here. I'm going to open up the parentheses. The address property of the active cell has some arguments that we could potentially use. So row absolute, column absolute, this is asking you whether or not you want to put the dollar signs or not inside of the cell reference. So whether or not you want something like, if I do this, let's say it's F15. Whether you just want that F15 or you want to put the dollar signs in there inside the formula or inside the cell reference itself. So if I get over here, let's say, oh, I don't want the cell references. I don't want them to be absolute. So then I'm going to say false for the column, or for, excuse me, for the row, and false for the column. So this way I'll just get F15 instead of $F $15. So now, last cell contains the address, a relative address, to the last cell that we selected. So now I can go back to my formula, this kind of concatenated combining formula, and I'm going to put last cell in there. So now the active cell's value is equal to this formula right here, a couple pieces of known data and one unknown last cell that we found through this line right here. All right, there's a lot going on in there. A lot of little concepts going on in there. We're selecting cells, we're getting values from those cells, we're moving cells, we're now giving a value to a cell. So nail this part down, get this little bit of code in there. You can even put comments in there to help you remember the code and make sense of what's happening here. And then let's jump to the next video and we're going to try it out.